Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Thank you, and I have to apologize to my friends, my family, and my doctors, but against their wishes, Ryan Arico is staying right here at Wrasslin Raw.
Against the wishes of your friends and family, you're going to keep doing the podcast.
And doctor.
And doctor. Joe Gimateo.
Boy toy. Ha ha. That's good.
Oh, boy. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on January 8th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Bob Carpenter Center in Newark, Delaware, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Yes, even though our doctors are advising to not continue. Let's do this.
We're reckless.
For your own sake, just don't press record, Ryan. If you're not going to do it for your wife, do it for yourself. All right, then, let's get into it. Tonight, Shawn Michaels makes a stunning revelation. Also, is billionaire Ted planning another Raw ripoff? You'll also witness one of the most gory matches ever seen here on cable television. We'll also have a guest on Doc's Cocaine Jam. That's going to be Scheme Gene. And then guess what, guys? We're back to the old Raw intro, or at least the old Raw music. We scrapped Nitro Light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a better theme.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The new video is pretty cool, too, I thought.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It did make me just a teeny bit wistful for Doc Hendricks doing the lounge dancer routine, though. That was always entertaining to see.
Yeah, that famous rooftop intro didn't really last too long.
Nope. Well, there's going to be all kinds of things happening here tonight, and including, we're going to find out who exactly is the $1 Million Champion. There's a Royal Rumble sweepstakes that I haven't heard about at all up to this point, and we're going to get a little more information on that later. But as we're getting this info from commentary, we're also getting entrance music for our first match of the night. Double J, Jeff Jarrett, defeats Hakushi by submission in 5 minutes and 53 seconds. There's a nice start to the match with a scoop slam and toss on Hakushi, leading Double J to strut. These guys are of an equal size for the most part, and it's starting to show early on in the match that they're going to be able to work well together. There's a spot at the beginning where Double J reverses Hakushi out of the ring. Double J goes to strut, but Hakushi has landed on his feet at the outside. And while Double J is strutting, Hakushi climbs the stairs and ring post like a fucking monkey up a tree. He is lightning fast, and then delivers a missile shoulder block to Double J that looked great, followed by a tuck and roll to his feet. Hakushi is great at what he does. Double J starts to walk out, but then comes back, milking the situation and drawing a count. Again, I've mentioned it before, but I have to point out again here, it's highlighted in this match just how much I love how vocal Double J is while he's working. He is so great at just talking shit and drawing heat while working during the match. It amazes me. Once I started paying more attention to it, I realized that he talks out loud so that everybody can hear him more than just about any other wrestler at this current point in time in the WWF, and I would love to be corrected on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. When Hakushi takes the upper hand, the work continues to look great, but it all comes to an end, though, when Double J calls for the finish and is able to lock on the figure 4 leg lock, causing Hakushi to submit and Double J to get the victory. Guys, I think this was a great way to start the show. It was a mostly flawless match between two professionals. I do say mostly flawless because there were a couple spots that you could tell were a little hitched because of miscommunication, but even those got worked out quickly in the ring. Overall, this was a great match to watch. Ryan, what did you think of our show opener?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I mean, you have two really great workers here that are able to pull off a very good match, even though I do think there was a little bit of miscommunication, especially at the beginning, like you mentioned. But once they kind of got into the flow of things, it looked good. I always love Hakushi's rope attack with that shoulder and the way he tucks and rolls. It's just, he looks like a stuntman in a movie, the way he pulls it off. I mean, it's flawless almost every time. I also like King joking that Double J's guitar was given to him by Garth Brooks. That brought me back to 96. I always love when the King drops little nuggets like that. Sadly, though, Vince and the King revert back to the Raw Bowl commentary just quickly. It was enough to make me remember it, though, so I didn't like that. But outside of that, I was a little disappointed in how it ended. I thought it was really quick, and I didn't like seeing Hakushi have to submit. I admit, this was a very good match to start things off. I really thought it could have used at least another 3 to 5 minutes. Could have done this match a lot of service. So a little disappointed in how short it was, but very solid match.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty solid. I went into this match really wanting this match to be great, and I don't think it was. I thought it was just good.
Yeah.
The King asked whatever happened to the Americanizing of Hakushi, and I agree. Like, what the hell ever happened with that? Because he was working with Barry Horowitz there.
Yeah, I would follow that up with with another question, which is, what happened to the push of Barry Horowitz?
Yeah.
Because that seems to have ended as well.
Yeah, so I agree with that, with the King's statement there. Bartlett, I also agree with you with Jeff Jarrett being very vocal and just being very good at it. He also has just great facial expressions, too, all the time. Like, he's just a really good heel. You can tell he's someone who grew up in this business for sure. I never get tired of seeing him walk out and then come back. Like, I don't know why. I love it every time. Normally something like that would annoy me, but I love it every time. They're really teasing us a lot with that guitar, aren't they?
Yeah.
That guitar is they're focusing on that guitar, so we might maybe see more of that in the future.
Now, I wasn't grabbing the ropes. Now.
Yeah.
Not only does he talk to the other wrestlers and the ref, he's constantly screaming at people in the crowd, and he really knows how to keep this crowd involved. And you could tell he came from that local wrestling match because that's what those guys were known for, pissing off crowd and interacting with them. So yeah, it's always great to watch.
An impromptu question here that I just thought of. We've had the unofficial burial of Hakushi over the past few months, but would you guys maybe say that this is the official start of the burial of Hakushi?
I don't think so, just because it wasn't like this was a squash match.
This was a submission, though.
It was.
Yeah.
But they gave him some time. He was able to take over a little bit. This was no Mabel getting the big boot in 8 seconds.
Yeah, and I think Hakushi was buried back when Barry Horowitz was talking to him about Babe Ruth.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, let's move it along now to Jim Ross. Jim is going to fill in for Doc Hendricks on Doc's Cocaine Jam, and the set of Doc's Cocaine Jam continues to look like a Spencer's store in the mall. At least the way Spencer's used to look back in the 90s before it became nothing but weed leaves and sex toys.
They had a little bit of that back then, too, though.
Yeah, have you been into a Spencer's lately?
I haven't.
It's wall-to-wall pot leaves and sex toys, man. That's all it is now.
Cater to your audience, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not going to say why I was there.
You wanted to buy a rubber doll and have it watch you at night.
With a hole the shape of a weed leaf, yeah.
But like the Bret Hart stand-up thing or whatever.
Ah, yes.
I have it sit down at the dinner table with me and the wife and kids.
Yeah.
Well, Jim is going to have Scheme Gene here, but first, let's talk about the Royal Rumble.
Can we talk about Scheme Gene's borderline Hitler mustache?
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean-
that had to be on purpose.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
had
it's
to be,
rough.
and it was very Hitler-ish.
Yeah.
You know what he reminded me of with the bad bald cap and then the Hitler mustache? He looked like how Robot Chicken used to do claymation Hitler.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He
Yeah.
looked exactly like the Robot Chicken Hitler.
but he didn't look like Mean Gene.
No.
Didn't even sound like him.
No, didn't look or sound. Well, because the other thing is Mean Gene never tried to have that, like, little bit of hair comb over thing going.
Mhm.
He just went with a straight, the bald cap up top.
Yeah.
He was just
Yeah.
bald.
Yep.
So, yeah, just stupid.
Well, we've got a new list of Royal Rumble entrants to let everybody know. Doug Gilbert is going to be there, as well as Jake the Snake Roberts. Jerry the King Lawler is going to be in the Royal Rumble. Fatu, Isaac Yankem. And we have some more names later on that, or they tell us more names later on, but I'm just going to add them here. Henry Godwin, Marty Jannetty. God damn it. Kama, Skip, and Takio Amore have all been added to the Rumble. But we're going to take a quick look at the big name entrant, the man they call Vader. And this brings us an amazing vignette of Big Van Vader in that gravelly voice saying that he's straight out of the Rockies. It's time. It's time. It's Vader time. I fucking loved this vignette. It was short, but it was absolutely perfect in presentation. And now, Scheme Gene, everybody. He's there saying that superstars are coming out of the woodwork. He can't give it to us now, but he can give it to us later. No fucking clue what that was about. But before we move on, Ryan, what did you think about the new Rumble entrance, the Scheme Gene bullshit here, and that bitchin' Vader vignette?
Well, I'm going to actually start with the very beginning of the Doc's Cocaine Jam with JR taking over here. And
Yeah.
did you guys notice what JR's excuse as to why he was taking over?
No.
Doc Hendricks was apparently held up by the snow.
What kind of snow are we talking?
Yeah. That is what JR told us. So I thought that was very fitting.
Yes.
Very fitting.
Sure.
So I'll move on. The Vader vignette, fantastic. I loved it. I thought this was just a really good way to just show off Vader. We got the famous Vader time, out of him. So that was good. Very excited about that. And excited to see what he could do in the WWF. Scheme Gene, I already gave my 2 cents on that. It was terrible, stupid, just like last week.
Yeah, I agreed with Scheme Gene. They got some balls making fun of the Mean Gene hotline because they do the same fucking thing,
Yeah.
They had an OJ hotline of guilty or not that they had to apologize for. So, whatever. It was good to see Jim Ross. We don't see him very much, so that's always good. And the Vader vignette, I was coming day and night for this whole thing.
Yeah.
That 90s metal music that was playing too was just
Perfect.
Jim Johnston is just a fucking musical genius with this stuff. Like, just the range that he has to be able to do all this music is crazy.
Just to inform our listeners out there, I currently saw that there's a petition going around to get him into the Hall of Fame because he is not yet.
Oh, well, he is as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but I agree with that. He definitely should be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just an awesome vignette. Probably just very fitting for who Vader is, just fantastic. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have noted here for that.
Yeah, agreed on all points. That man popping my ass off for that Vader vignette. Short and to the point and just kind of brutal all around like Vader.
I watched a Vader shoot interview and I was wondering why did his run in WWF not work out so well? And it's basically mostly because of Shawn Michaels.
Ah.
Shocker.
Surprise, surprise. Well, we're going to come out of Doc's Cocaine Jam and into our next match. Ahmed Johnson defeats Jeff Brettler by pinfall in 1 minute and 33 seconds. And Jeff Brettler is our jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Bartlett. Jeff Brettler is this week's jobber. I guess. I mean, kind of. I only wanted to use him since we haven't had a new jobber to use in a while.
And with what he was wearing, you have no choice.
Those pants. But to be honest, Brettler is no real jobber of the week because there's no personal information about him. He has a total of 3 matches recorded. A loss to Mike Davis on September 16th, 1994 for Global Wrestling Federation under the name Rico Suave.
Oh, wow. Sure as hell didn't look too suave.
Then Brettler finished out his wrestling career with back-to-back losses to Ahmed Johnson. This one, and then another one on Superstars on March 10th, 1996. After that, he's done. No more matches for Jeff, and he finishes his career with 0 wins and 3 losses.
So I have to ask now, is it Brettler with a G or Brettler with a B?
It was marked as both.
Okay, because I found it as Brettler with a B, but I did not in the least bit doubt your jobber research, and it just kind of struck me that this guy is such an unknown and such
a jobber.
Such a jobber that we can't even get his name right. Not just us, but nobody can get his name right.
So if you look him up, the actual matches had him listed as Brettler, but the aliases up top gave Brettler, Brettler, and Rico Suave were his 3 aliases that were given.
Okay.
I have Jeff ? Because Vince sucks, and I couldn't tell what he was saying.
Yeah. Rico Suave, that was a nickname I had back in Pee Wee football a coach gave to me, Rico Suave. It was right around that same time frame. That match he was wrestling was in 94. That was about when I was in Pee Wee, and probably when Rico Suave's song was popular.
What a great music video that was, too.
Yeah, wasn't it?
It was like the music video equivalent of Jeff Brettler's pants.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Here in the match, it can't be understated just how badass Ahmed Johnson looks every fucking time you see him. This man is a brick shithouse. After a quick commercial break, we come back to the ring bell and our first glimpse of Jeff Brettler. My first note on Jeff is, what the ever-loving shit is he wearing? I had to think about it for a second, and then I came to the conclusion that it was like a multicolor print on parachute pants.
Enormous parachute pants.
It was hitched up to Jeff's nipples, the kind of thing that Shanae would wear on Martin.
I thought for sure he was going to be busting into like some "you can't touch this" or something with those pants.
I mean, they were like too big for that. They were huge.
They looked like they were cinched around his nipples with like a cord of fucking baling twine or something.
You remember the cartoon?
No.
The Martin cartoon?
No, the MC Hammer cartoon.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember that, yeah, but I don't remember the...
In the theme song, he was jumping down, and at one point he uses his pants to lower himself to the ground. And
okay.
They blow out really big, like
they're,
Jeff Brettler's pants.
Because they're parachutes.
Because they're parachute pants.
That's where they got the inspiration.
I get it.
Yeah.
For the...
In a cartoon, the logic works.
Yeah.
Well, what doesn't work is Jeff's strategy for taking on Ahmed Johnson. He makes the mistake of charging Ahmed, and that just doesn't work. But then as Jeff comes at Ahmed again, Ahmed catches him and puts him into a move that made me jump up and say, what the fuck was that? It was like a clutch hold suplex. It was a little different, but it was executed more or less like a Tasmission plex. But the difference here is that the clutch was put on from the side, causing the suplex to turn Jeff Brettler in midair so that he landed hard on his shoulder and neck. That looked dangerous and painful. But the clothesline to follow up looked great. If he didn't have severe neck trauma from that move, he definitely got it from the clothesline. Ahmed has added scissor kicks to his repertoire. He practices a couple for us. They're not looking too bad. They're followed up then by a spine buster. It's executed better than usual, but it's still a hip buster.
That was more of a tailbone buster is kind of what he gave me with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looked rough. That's the move, by the way,
that no one wants to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Pearl River Plunge finishes off Brettler with the pin and the 3 count. Then after the match, Double J attempts to run in to hit Ahmed with his guitar, but Ahmed dodges it and chases Jarrett out. Ahmed then takes the guitar and annihilates it against the ring post. We continue the pattern here of Ahmed Johnson looking impressive but doing some shaky work. Joe, please, what did you think of this match?
Well, poor Garth Brooks, he gives a guitar to Double J and it's destroyed. What a shame. This is another squash match for Ahmed Johnson, basically the same thing we've been seeing every week. I hope this comes out right, but he sort of reminds me of an Adam Bomb type wrestler, but with way more charisma and a better look. Like his style is basically the same thing. So far, we're just getting the same exact shit every match. So thankfully, he's going to be wrestling Jeff Jarrett soon, and maybe we'll see something a little bit different. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, because this was, like I said, this was like every other match we've seen so far.
Yeah, in agreement here. And like most matches we've seen out of him so far, we get some really ugly moves that made me just say, God damn. That, whatever the shit he did at the beginning there where he slammed him, I said ouch out loud watching it. And then Vince asked the King what the move was. The King had no clue. And then they show it to us in slow motion from another angle, and it looks even worse as Brettler just gets slammed right on his elbow, shoulder, and neck. And just, God damn, did it look sore. And then the spine buster on his tailbone. Did I not say this a little while ago that a many jobbers last match is against Ahmed Johnson? Well, here's another. Add Brettler to the list. He has 2 matches against Ahmed Johnson, and he's just up on the shelf for the rest of his life. The Pearl River Plunge, he has seemed to be able to pull that off successfully. And I guess from what Joe told us a couple weeks ago, people aren't worried about that move. It doesn't bother them. It's everything else. So, yeah, another squash match. And he does look, I get his charisma and his energy is really something to watch, but he's going to kill someone in there.
Yeah, he's going to kill someone and not just a guitar.
Yeah.
A person.
What I was thinking about whenever you were giving your opinions, coming up against Jeff Jarrett and how that might look, it made me realize that the perfect, well, maybe not perfect, but it seems like the best thing that could have happened with Ahmed in a dream booking scenario, obviously. It would have been great if they would have kept Bam Bam around but switched him back to heel. Because if Bam Bam can get that good of a match out of Lawrence Taylor, training Lawrence Taylor, I imagine Bam Bam would have been able to train Ahmed to do a pay-per-view worthy match.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think with Bam Bam in the ring, he would have been able to, basically guide him along in that match. Yeah. To make something that was maybe something a little bit better than we typically get out of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from what I hear, maybe he's not a guy that would have been accepting of that either. So,
oh yeah,
I don't know. But Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson just released an Ahmed Johnson podcast recently. I listened to it today, and Bruce mentioned that they purposely put him with Jeff Jarrett here for that exact reason.
Because he is such a veteran.
Yes, exactly. They wanted to put him with someone who is, a veteran that can work with him and try to improve his ring skills a little bit.
What an interesting program that would be. A babyface Ahmed Johnson with a good solid heel Bam Bam Bigelow. But you know what? I will absolutely take Double J Jeff Jarrett. Looking forward to that match. What I'm not looking forward to is a petting zoo voiceover. Ever. Never want to hear it. But we get one here. He's going to let us know that next week on Raw, The Undertaker is going to take on Isaac Yankem. How about that? That's shaping up to be an interesting spectacle, perhaps.
Yeah.
Also, Marty Jannetty versus Owen Hart.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. With Owen Hart, though, that has, as much as we like to shit talk Marty Jannetty, he can put on a decent enough match. We're just tired of looking at him in the fucking tassels. But with Owen Hart, that has the potential to be a pretty good match, I think.
It does.
All bullshitting aside.
Especially because we haven't been getting Marty overload like we were.
That's
a
right,
little bit
yeah.
ago.
Yes. Yeah, great point there. But now, Brother Love and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, they're there in the ring. The $1 Million Man is holding the $1 million belt. And in something that was kind of disappointing. I don't know why I thought that it would be a much bigger deal watching it, maybe because I've built it up in my mind. He calls out the Ringmaster, and the Ringmaster comes out to the $1 million music. But I tell you what, that sense of disappointment did not last very long because it was great to see Steve Austin come down to the ring. This is a younger Steve Austin. He is looking great here. Fantastic shape. The Ringmaster says he's in the Royal Rumble now too, which is good to hear. This man is the first promo, man, that the Ringmaster cuts, man. And while it is definitely Steve Austin talking, you can tell that he's being restrained by the gimmick and the things he has to say to stick to it before we move along. I've really been looking forward to talking with you guys about this. So, Joe, what did you have on our upcoming matches next week on Raw? But more importantly, the debut of the Ringmaster on our screens.
Nothing much to say about next week's matches, really. I mean, like we said, Owen Hart and Marty Jannetty probably won't be as terrible as we might think it could be. So we'll see what happens there. And as far as the Steve Austin stuff, the Ringmaster, I don't know. I don't know what to think. It's crazy to think like this guy is going to take this entire company, put it on his back, and just make it the biggest thing ever with a little bit of a supporting cast. It's hard to see here. I'm not going to lie. Like it's kind of hard to see. I'm not saying that this was bad, but man, Vince just set him up for failure. So good on him to kind of just say, fuck the Ringmaster and do his own thing in just a few months here, because this is kind of shitty with Ted DiBiase and Brother Love there too. It's like, what the hell? Very scripted, a lot of man. It was almost like a Hulk Hogan promo, but instead of brother, he was saying man. We did not get that ECW Steve Austin. You would kind of expect that at this point, but it looks like he was kind of, just sticking to the script that Vince wanted him to do.
When it started here, seeing him come down with the no goatee, he's got a little bit of the blonde hair going on, and he's coming out to Ted DiBiase's music instead of no breaking of glass when he's walking out here. But I thought the Ringmaster cut a pretty good promo here. The funniest thing to me was, at least appears to me, this gimmick is kind of almost a pretty boy type gimmick. And then the voice coming out is just the standard Texan Stone Cold that I hear, outside of the a little bit restrained and a lot of mans added here. But it was Stone Cold, and I couldn't help just get excited over that. Even though this gimmick, we know it's going to go nowhere, and understandably so, it's stupid. But I thought the intensity and just the sound that you got out of this promo, I immediately just started getting all these flashes of classic moments that we're going to get. So it was exciting for that, but we could certainly see why he quickly had to move away from this Ringmaster gimmick, or who knows what would have happened to the WWF, to be honest with you. If he wouldn't have morphed into Stone Cold, what would have happened? That's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's foot in the door.
Yeah.
And that's all you need sometimes. If you're someone like him or The Rock, and you're creative enough and good enough that you can come up with your own thing, then you see what happens.
Yep.
It was just a jarring kind of weird scenario with him here. And Ryan, you really hit the nail on the head, because he has this look, this very, shall we say, tailored look. And by tailored, I don't mean like tailored like a suit, but his look is curated. You can tell that creative put his look together, and he comes out with the look. He's presented as the $1 million champion, but then he opens his mouth, and even trying to make it, with the man stuff, and it's Steve Austin, and it's these two clashing things going on. The sound doesn't match the look, and the look doesn't match the sound.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious that this, one way or the other, whether he was good enough to drag himself out from under it, or whether he wasn't good enough and would have just died under this gimmick, it was never going to work. Either way.
Right. And it's weird, too, because, I mean, Steve Austin's a good wrestler, but he's not like a Kurt Angle type of wrestler that you would want to give him this type of a gimmick.
You know, something else that I've been looking forward to with him, and Joe, I think you pointed it out with one of your more recent news segments. This is pre-broken neck Steve Austin, who wrestles with a different style than post-broken neck. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that difference, because most of my memories are post-broken neck, you know?
Yeah.
And the one thing that doesn't make sense to me from Vince's point is, like, why did you put this gimmick on him? Like, you hear the guy come in and, you know, whatever promos you've seen from him when he's in there interviewing you, you know, he sounds like the bionic redneck that we know. Why would you strap him with this pretty boy gimmick that sound just doesn't match it?
Well, it's not as bad as WCW giving him the stunning Steve Austin.
That's true, yeah.
From Hollywood.
But it's almost just as dumb. It's almost like he was kind of trying to keep that gimmick, just didn't want to call him stunning Steve Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he's like doing the laughing with Ted DiBiase. Like, it just didn't seem too genuine, really, other than just his voice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're going to break for commercial and come back to our next match. Goldust defeats Aldo Montoya by pinfall in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. This match gets started with some fire from Goldust, who pretty much manhandles Aldo Montoya through a series, ending in a hellacious whip into the corner. This action is looking great. Goldust looks to be in better shape. His package isn't poking out of his jumpsuit nearly as much. His wrestling form is on point. The jockstrap on Aldo Montoya's head makes it look like somebody stuffed a bunch of pubes into his mask. It is looking horrible. The jockstrap that should be around Goldust's waist is on Aldo Montoya's fucking head. While Aldo's rally did look pretty good, Goldust's reversal into a finisher looked better, and here's where we get the pin, the 3 count, and the newfound jobber status of Aldo Montoya. And wouldn't you know, to cap off his victory, Goldust steps up to the ropes and drapes his genitals over the top rope so we can all get a view of the goods before we move on. As I said, I think Goldust is improving in leaps and bounds, and this match highlights that as well as Goldust's package. Ryan, what did you think of this?
Yeah, I thought Goldust and Aldo put on a pretty good show here. I mean, sadly for Montoya, this is kind of him entering into jobber status, because this was another short match. Just like the first one, I think it could have done with, you know, a few more minutes, because these guys were working really good together, selling for each other, just, you know, right from the beginning. I enjoyed what I was watching. And I also loved the King when he brought up that the #1 movie was 12 Monkeys, because that's one of my all-time favorite movies still to this day. I absolutely love that movie. So just like earlier, that is another just great nugget from King that brings me back to 96. So thank you for that. And, you know, like you said, Aldo took over and it looked good. He's doing great. And then Goldust just catches him in the Shattered Dreams and it's done. They're doing a good job of building up Goldust, I think. I'm enjoying watching him regardless of what some of the, internet at the time was talking about him. It seems like he's not very popular with the fans yet, but I think he's looking better and better every time we see him. I just wish this match could have lasted a few more minutes.
Yeah, kind of on the same lines as you guys, with just noticing how much Goldust is improving since we first saw him. Just everything about him, the wrestling, the matches, the gimmick itself. Although the Razor Ramon stuff is a little disturbing, it's still him being put into a title picture. So it's giving him more attention, and he's doing a good job with it for what he has, and this with this weird gimmick. Like, he's doing a really good job. And the gimmick itself is like, outside of the Undertaker, it's really one of the very few gimmicks that it's not the guy with the volume turned up. You know, we just talked about Steve Austin, and you know, he's famous for saying, "Yeah, that's just me with the volume turned up." Goldust is obvious. Like, Dustin Runnels could not be further from Gold. He's a big tobacco chewing Texas guy, you know. So it's like the total opposite, and it's really interesting to me. I'm not sure if the gimmick would have ever worked if he wasn't such a tough, stiff worker. He wrestles like a tough guy that he is. You know, he's not like a finesse worker. So, you know, just major, huge credit to Dustin Runnels for just pulling this off for all those years.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys have said here. And it's a testament, like you say, Joe, to Dustin that he's able to do this. And what's even funnier to me is that even though this is not Dustin Runnels turned up to 11, he still tried to take it in that direction. We've all heard the stories of him pitching to Vince, well, what if I got breast implants?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of weird shit. But then, you know, he maintained it throughout how many years with the WWE. And then even though he's not Goldust anymore, he still kind of does that with AEW today. He has the vinyl jumpsuit. He paints half of his face in a Goldust type fashion, except with different colors. And for somebody that is not their gimmick, does not live their gimmick, he has latched onto it and held onto it for a very long time. And it's been good. That's not a negative thing in his case. Well, let's go back to Jim Ross in the Cocaine Jam yet again, because we need Jim to lube us up for the Shawn Michaels press conference. Shawn's doctors and family think that he should stop wrestling. And it's at this point that I had to note, and if you guys, either of you want to answer this, what was up with the way that Shawn was talking?
Yeah,
again, is he like pilled up or drunk or both?
Yeah, I think that's a given.
But,
but he typically is. So
yeah,
I don't know.
He's not the Shawn Michaels that we see later, like DX. You know, like it's really weird.
Maybe this is something Sonny is telling him to do.
Well, it's like Shawn was gritting his teeth while he was talking. Maybe like a speech impediment, or like the thing that it really sounded like to me was that his jaw was partially wired shut.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't. You could see him moving his mouth normally, but it was that kind of just really tight talking, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors that people that enjoy cocaine kind of get their teeth gritting and grinding and stuff like that. So maybe
this is the Cocaine Jam. So
yeah. Well, the sound quality of this press conference was fucking terrible. Ton of feedback. Whoever was on the soundboard was just making horrible choices there.
Someone give him a chicken wing.
Yeah. That poor soul. But the long and the short of it is that Shawn Michaels is going to be entering the Royal Rumble, and this prompts a cheer from the obvious plants in the crowd. And when I say that, you can see that there are a couple people in the back that are jumping up and down and cheering and clapping and hooting and hollering. Then there are a bunch of normal journalist-looking people that are bored as hell sitting in the front row.
That was his doctors and family not happy.
Jim Ross comes back to let us know that this is great news and that we should all be looking at the Royal Rumble in a new light. But wait, Scheme Gene wants to chime in with his 2 cents. And here's where I have to ask, again, if you guys know, who's the guy that's playing Scheme Gene? Underneath the shitty makeup, he looks really familiar, and I didn't get a chance to look it up.
Yeah, I didn't look it up either, but I agree with you. He did look familiar.
Well, that's neither here nor there, because Scheme Gene has nothing for us. No information or anything new other than this call-in thing. It was... Well, we're going to move back to commentary from there, where we get the opinions of other superstars on the announcement by Shawn Michaels, because obviously we need to get the opinions of other superstars on Shawn Michaels. First up is Diesel, surprise, surprise. Then Razor Ramon, surprise again. They're both there, fluffing Shawn. Then we do get Owen Hart. Owen Hart comes in and makes some great threats to Shawn Michaels. That was good to hear. That was really good because I honestly expected the 1-2, well, he's kind of a heel, but I expected the 1-2-3 Kid to be the next up to talk about him, and then Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But before we move along, Ryan, what did you think about where we're at in the dramatic and thrilling emancipation of the Christ-like victim of the world, Shawn Michaels?
Well, I mean, it just continues. We are really, really hamming it up here, over dramatic. This press conference that we're having for him, like he's announcing his retirement, like King was alluding to last week, but no, against everyone's wishes, entering into the Royal Rumble, and then Jim Ross says that's excellent news. So Vince is going to holler at us again, telling us that we killed Shawn Michaels in just a few weeks because we forced him to get into the Royal Rumble.
He's doing this for you.
He's doing it for us. We forced him into it. He's going to die on our watch. I guess that's sad that we're going to get blamed for that just down the road here. So that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I hate this for a lot of reasons, really. I think that, Ryan, you mentioned a couple weeks ago that this stuff is like, it makes you want to not like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need this extra shit to like him.
Yeah. A lot of reasons I hate this is, one is it's not a surprise. Like the Royal Rumble, we know everyone that's going to be there. Nothing is a surprise. So you're taking that away from the Royal Rumble, which is one of the great things about it. So we know he's going to be there. Like he's obviously the favorite to win the thing. So now you're like kind of giving that away too. And the interviews after, it's just a nice reminder that, oh, here's Owen Hart. You could have maybe built a little program out of this, but instead you fucking squashed him with Diesel on a pay-per-view. So who cares what Owen Hart has to say now? He's already had his ass kicked by Diesel, so who cares? It's funny how this whole thing was worked out because it doesn't translate very well in 2021, because now if someone has a head injury, it's like, okay, you're done until that is, completely gone. Or if it's not completely gone, you're done forever. Yeah. So like back then, it's like they're kind of just not making a joke out of it, but like they're not taking it as seriously as they really should have or would now.
Well, I mean, a perfect example is that, especially since last week they wanted to do the Raw Bowl. So let's use football as an example. Back in '96, you got a concussion. They were basically say, be a man, get out there next game and play.
Walk it off.
Yeah, where now in football, you get a concussion, you're usually out at least a couple weeks, if not a few, and you got to go through all these protocols and pass tests before you can get back in. I mean, it's serious stuff now.
Yeah, but also back then, if a doctor was saying, do not go back in the game, they probably would not.
Yeah.
But in here, it's like, the doctors are telling me not to wrestle ever again, but screw that. I'll be there. It's stupid storytelling.
Yeah. And behind all of it, I still can't get past the idea that we have this happening, and yet Vince McMahon is still going to go on AOL chat and be an incel and blame us all.
No, he'll complain about guaranteed contracts in WCW.
Nobody likes me.
All right, guys. Well, here in the episode is where we go into the match between the British Bulldog and Bret the Hitman Hart from In Your House 5. If you'd like to hear, and by you I mean our listeners out there, if you listeners would like to hear our discussion about this match, you can find that in our archives from 3 fucking weeks ago on our In Your House 5 episode. This is not new at all. So we'll just skip ahead past this.
Well, one thing I want to say is that I wanted to see what they were going to do about the blood, and they did show it, and they said, they had the viewer discretion before they showed the match. So
interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe they're doing that on purpose to try to get viewership to increase, but who knows?
Well, I have to admit that this is the first time that I ever stepped on the fucking fast forward button like it was a gas pedal.
So here's a quick question for you two. With the blood that they decided to show during this, and we know that here in 96, we're going to start to enter into a little bit more risky territory. how far away are we from the Sunny intros basically warning us that Raw isn't, kid-friendly anymore? Yeah.
Is advised.
Right. Like, I think that's coming up not too far away now.
Yeah, I'm not sure when that started. That's a good question.
I think it's sometime in 96. I'm just not sure beginning or end.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I look forward to coming day and night the first time I see that.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's like on the beach in a bikini and stuff.
Well,
so
I think there's a few of them. There's like a hot tub one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as we have decided to, in the show here, skip ahead past this replay of this match, that means we're going to skip through a pretty good chunk of the remainder of tonight's episode. But thankfully, we do get an amazing promo package from Paul Bearer and The Undertaker about Undertaker's upcoming championship match with Bret Hart at the Royal Rumble. We then get the news. Hey, you remember that Royal Rumble sweepstakes that we heard about at the beginning of the episode that we didn't get any information on? Well, we're gonna let you know what that is. Kathy Schreck won tickets to the Royal Rumble.
Oh, congratulations.
I wasn't even aware that you could enter a Royal Rumble sweepstakes. Tell me, guys, do you remember on any of the episodes of Raw leading up to this, anybody ever saying anything about a sweepstakes that we could enter to get tickets?
No. And I would have swore that Petting Zoo would have let us know if something like this was going on.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't recall. I know they wanted to know if we thought OJ was guilty or not, but I don't remember.
I don't remember
sweepstakes.
Anything about a Royal Rumble sweepstakes.
I agree, because Kathy Schreck just sounds like kind of a worked name. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just throwing it out there.
Let's track her down, try and get an interview.
Next week on Raw, The Undertaker versus Isaac Yankem. Also, the Ringmaster will be in action, as well as Owen Hart taking on Marty Jannetty. But to put a cap on this episode, let's go now to Billionaire Ted's Wrasslin War Room. And of course, Vince Russo is there. This was just incredibly pathetic, right down to the spot where Nacho Man and the Huckster are talking about how over at Billionaire Ted's promotion, they don't have to take drug tests for steroids. And that's it. We fade to black on that, of all fucking things. Joe, please, what did you think about the Undertaker promo, our newest installment of Billionaire Ted and the way that Raw ended tonight?
Well, one thing you may have missed when you fast forwarded was Vince did tell us that the Royal Rumble matches will be exclusively on pay-per-view only. So the good news is we will not have to watch replays of matches from the Royal Rumble in the future on Raw. So that is good.
I would hope not.
He was warning anyone that was going to buy Royal Rumble that unlike those schmucks that bought In Your House 5, that then just watched all the important matches just replayed on Raw, no, you actually have to pay for these ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get with that cheap In Your House.
Pathetic.
Undertaker, Paul Bearer, I love Paul Bearer's facial expressions while the Undertaker's talking. It's just, I could watch it all day. I love it. And Billionaire Ted, I'm just, when I see these, I'm happy that WCW kicked their ass for 83 weeks because these are just not that funny. Again, like I said last week, it's almost like Vince and Bruce with their like haha inside joke stuff that they think is hilarious is really not that funny. And the steroid reference, like, come on.
Yeah.
You were just on trial for how long? And like to make that joke is just, it just doesn't make, again, it's like the hotline thing with Scheme Gene.
Taker and Paul Bearer, they give one of their typical just professional promos that, they deliver every time. Like you said, Joe, the way that he looks at the Undertaker every time, I just get a kick out of it. And The Undertaker gives a good promo, saying Brett's a great champion, but, come Royal Rumble, it's out of his hands. He's going to have to do what The Undertaker does. So good promo. And then we learn about a couple matches. Kind of excited to see the Undertaker-Kane match.
Kane? Who's Kane?
Oh, I'm sorry. Undertaker Isaac Yankem. There we go.
Oh, okay. DDS.
Yeah, DDS. And then Ted in the War Room. It's just sad. Like I said last week, this is just desperate. It looks so sad And it's just like you could see why WCW is about to kick their ass for a good length of time. Like, if you're resorting to this Jimmy Stewart wannabe Ted, I don't know. Like, who is laughing at this? Like, Vince, I think, has to be the only one that finds this funny because it's just stupid. And the way they shoehorned in that steroid trial joke that, man, did I roll my eyes at that? Because, after all this shit you just went through, and then you're going to bring this up, really dumb.
And Ted Turner was always like mostly a fairly private guy. Like he wasn't a guy that was really like out there, you know, like a Donald Trump type person that people parody all the time. So it's like, who the hell, like if I'm sitting there as like a teenage kid, I have no fucking clue who Ted Turner is, probably.
Yeah.
Even if you watched WCW, you wouldn't have any clue because he doesn't show up there.
Yes, exactly.
Why aren't you making fun of Eric Bischoff?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed on all points. And I just have to, you've both said it, but just pointing out the steroids, like as if we don't have to test for steroids here. Well, the only reason the WWF has to test for steroids is because you went to fucking court for it. You wouldn't be testing for steroids if there wasn't a fucking federal mandate.
Yeah,
making
you were in front of Congress for that.
And you yourself are on steroids.
Yeah.
No. Human growth is different than steroids.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as I said, that ends our episode. So we're going to take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, why don't you go first with that?
Well, for my highlight, it was kind of tough to pick. There was a lot of just short matches here. But I'm going to go with the Goldust Aldo Montoya just because Goldust seems to really be coming into his own here and putting up some good matches. And Aldo really worked for him well here, even though ultimately he was jobbing for him for a relatively short match and could be the beginning of the end for him. But I thought this was the best match of the night as far as I'm concerned. Lowlight, showing a repeat match from In Your House 2 weeks in a row. The first one from last week, that's bad enough to waste our time with that. But then to do it 2 weeks in a row is just fucking unacceptable. I can't take that. That is a lowlight for me.
For me, this is easy. My highlight is the Vader vignette. And my low light is the Shawn Michaels press conference because it's sucking any excitement out of the Royal Rumble and it's basically giving away the fucking finish.
Yeah, there were plenty of things in here that could be a low light, and you guys make great points with your low lights. I had to go with Scheme Gene specifically. I mean, the whole thing, the whole billionaire Ted thing that they're doing here was pretty bad, especially with the steroid reference. But for some reason, the Scheme Gene thing, at least billionaire Ted's War Room kind of made sense. Like, it was stupid, and fans back then wouldn't have got it, but I at least kind of get it now, and it is what it is. Scheme Gene made zero sense every time he was on the screen. It was pretty much pointless. The guy didn't look like him, didn't act like him. It was horrible. It was just horrible. I don't know why I expect any kind of standard for that, but still, I had to mark that as my low light. For my highlight, I went with Goldust Aldo Montoya. Ryan, you pretty much said everything there is to say about that there. Just a great match all around. All right. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around January 8th, 1996 for us?
Yes, we mentioned the pay-per-views for the recent ones for WWF, and it's noted here in the Observer that the Royal Rumble price has been increased from $24.95 to $29.95 for this year's Royal Rumble. So
that's bold of them.
Yeah, really.
Price increase. Yeah, I'm sure Eric Bischoff will be announcing that on Nitro. Jake Roberts is only booked for the Royal Rumble right now. This is the time period when Jake Roberts was doing the religious gimmick. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be very important for Steve Austin.
Yes. And I guess that was kind of a shoot thing because he was also doing that in real life to get clean and sober. He met some woman that was very religious. So he's only booked for the Royal Rumble right now because he has religious bookings that he wants to keep.
At least he's showing up to something.
Yeah.
Cactus Jack promos have started over the weekend, but he won't be in the Rumble and won't do a pay-per-view show until at least WrestleMania. That's the word on the street. So Cactus Jack, of course, is Mick Foley. The Observer is still referring to him as Cactus Jack. So this must be a time period where Dave Meltzer is not aware of the Mankind gimmick yet. A name that reached out to WWF about wanting to join the Royal Rumble, Sabu.
Yeah.
Sabu actually wanted to join, but Paul Heyman, I guess, put the kibosh on that. He was against it and didn't want it to happen. Davey Boy Smith, so in 1993, he was charged with assault charges, and that trial for aggravated assault will begin on January 29th.
Wow.
He was accused of severely injuring a Calgary man on July 25th, 1993. So we'll see what happens there.
Talk about taking a while to get to court.
Yeah. There was talk that they were going to change the Ringmaster name with something less silly, but Steve Austin debuted with that name. I actually remember stories from Steve Austin. Didn't he say he was going to give him, Vince was going to give him like Mr. Freeze or some shit like that?
Yeah, Chili McFreeze.
Chili McFree.
Yeah.
Right. I think Ringmaster's a little better than that.
Everybody freeze.
Freeze, man.
Oh, God.
I mentioned a few weeks ago that Tom Pritchard has changed his look a little bit, and he's joined up with Skip from the Body Donnas, and apparently his name ended up being Zip, correct?
Yeah.
So I guess it started out as Flip, so they changed his name from Flip to Zip. We look for Tom Pritchard to join the Body Donnas soon. And our pal Buddy Landell, he had his surgery and he's going to be out for 3 months. So,
What was it ultimately a hip replacement he had to get?
yeah.
Which surgery? I mean, he's got probably so many.
It was when he slipped on the ice.
Yeah, he slipped on the ice and
that's right.
shattered his ankle, yeah.
That's right. He didn't have the tennis balls on his walker.
Correct.
Yes. There have been complaints about Goldust from fans at live shows due to him fondling himself. Oh, man. And I saved what I thought was the most interesting piece of news for last here. Apparently, Shawn Michaels inherited $2.5 million from a wrestling fan that he attempted to keep quiet.
Wow.
And he was asked about this at the press conference and got really mad and said no comment. I had to look this shit up. And the only thing I could find was Bruce Pritchard talks about it on his podcast, and he did not confirm or deny that it was true.
Because he's a WWE lackey.
Yeah, he played it off as rumor, but it could be true. He didn't know. It all kind of makes sense, right? Because he's got this click thing. He basically does whatever the fuck he wants because he's got that fuck you money.
He decides to take a couple-month break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Starts railing Sonny in front of Chris Candido.
Sonny. Wanted to build that big house in San Antonio and have her move in. It was a male fan. Left him $2.5 million.
Well, hey.
Such a hard life that we all, us the fans, put him through.
Yeah, yeah.
We the fans do this to him.
It's our fault that we gave him $2.5 million, the fans.
Yes, yes. And that is all.
My God. Thank you, Joseph. Enlightening as always. And that's it, folks. we are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW and just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on January 15th, 1996, with matches featuring the Ringmaster, the Spiders, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.